All right, good evening, everyone. This is the Town Plan and Zoning Commission. I'm Shannon Rutherford, the town planner. We will start with a roll call. Peter Zarella,
Here.
David St. Germain,
Here.
Liz Sanford,
Here.
Scott Halstead.
Here.
I'll note for the record that regular member Bobby Canto is absent this evening. Alternates Bruce Polsky,
Here.
Michael Coster,
Here.
Michael Tucci. Michael Tucci online?
Yep, here.
Perfect, thank you. All right, Mr. Chair, that is everyone for this evening.
Great, thanks, Shane.
Yep.
All right, well, welcome everybody to the October 27th Town Plan and Zoning Commission meeting. One housekeeping with Commissioner Canto out. Mr. Coster, you okay filling in?
Sure.
As a voting member? Great. All right, Liz, you want to read the legal notice, please?
Okay. Notice is hereby given that the Town Plan and Zoning Commission will hold a hybrid in-person and online public hearing on October 27th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in the Town Hall Council Chambers on the following application. Town Planning and Zoning Commission application for a text amendment, to the regulations for zoning, Article 1, Section 9, definitions, Article 2, Section 1, residential 80, 40, 30 zones, R80, R40, R30. Permitted uses, Article 4, Section 8, off-street parking standards, Section 8A, parking on residential properties, commercial vehicle parking, and associated text edits to Section 8B and Section 13. Interested parties are encouraged to participate in this hybrid public hearing. Participation in person is at 1 Monteith Drive, Town Hall, Town Council Chambers, or online participation is via the link on to the meeting on the town's website. A copy of this proposal is online or available online or by calling the planning department at Farmington Town Hall. Dated at Farmington, Connecticut, this 9th day of October 2025, Town Plan and Zoning Commission.
Thank you, Liz. Appreciate it. All right, we'll jump right in. We have a couple of new business items. So we'll get started with number 1, Westwoods Golf Course and Rec Center.
Oh, yes, yes. Sorry, yep. Sorry, the podium, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, good evening. My name is Jessie Gaetano. I'm from the Recreation Department. We're here tonight to propose enclosing 3 sides of our existing pavilion to be used for cart barn storage. We currently already store vehicles in there, but we'd like to move the rest of the fleet, including our additional vehicles, into that space and use it only for storage. And then we would like to erect a 20 by 40 seasonal tent for our what would have been our pavilion use for seasonal rentals. So before you can see in the orange is the site location for the 20 by 40 tent, and circled in yellow is the existing pavilion that we're proposing, enclosing 3 sides with lattice to just create a little bit of better storage for our carts. I'm happy to answer any questions regarding this.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Peter, first tonight.
Just to be clear, the application only is seeking installation of a tent and lattice. Are those the only things being installed?
We'll be doing a little bit of upgrade to the existing electrical to move the chargers over. They're currently stored in the front of the clubhouse for about 12, and we move them over and then add a little bit for the existing up to 40 is how many we're going to be storing in there. And they are electric. I should have stated that.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Thanks, Liz.
Just you have a total of how many carts?
We currently have a fleet of 28. In the next proposed budget, we're looking to have 40. So we'll be adding those in March if possible.
Okay, fingers crossed.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Okay, and on the tent, are you going to have any sort of flooring or anything like that, or is it going to be tables or?
So there's currently picnic tables under the pavilion that we'd move under. We'd probably lay like a plywood floor with a basic carpet, like a how do you describe it? Like a
Indoor,
turf.
outdoor, like a.
Yeah, an indoor outdoor.
Turf sort of thing?
Yeah.
Or an indoor, okay.
Yeah, and it would be erected from May 1st to November 1st.
Okay. And I am assuming you are not attempting to grow grass or anything there?
No.
So, okay, thank you.
Of course.
Hi.
Hi.
Are you planning any lighting for that? Like, would it be used at night?
Nope, it's just for our daytime tournaments, very similar to what we have at the pavilion already.
Okay. How about anything for a sound system, speaker system?
No, any sound used by any tournaments or events would have to go through the special permitting request, and we wouldn't have electricity in that area anyways, so
All right. Thanks.
of course.
Hi. With respect to the 40 carts being electrically charged, is there unattended charging going on? And what do you have in the way of fire suppression? Because that many batteries going could be a risk.
There is a fire extinguisher there, and they are charged overnight. But it's been that way since my existence. I don't know what additional, but we would work closely with the fire marshal's office to ensure that we're in compliance with everything.
So after the electrical upgrade is done, will there be an inspection by the fire marshal?
Yes.
And then with respect to the tent, what will you do, when we have like a nor'easter or a high wind situation? Will it be secure? Are there guy wires or anything else holding that?
Yeah, so we'll be working closely with a tent vendor who will be renting the tent from and or purchasing, who will put it up seasonally and take it down seasonally. One of the tents we were looking at had 80-mile-per-hour wind load, but they do monitor that throughout the season and come check to make sure that everything is secure. And we would be working with them to put up and take down the tent to be sure that it is properly installed. And it would go through all of the necessary building permits.
Very good. Thank you.
My pleasure.
I guess my questions are more aesthetics. Is it like one of those big white tents?
Yes.
And is it visible from the road?
I don't believe it's visible from the road because the road goes all the way out past the splash pad and existing building. So it's kind of across the parking lot. So it's set kind of far back.
Thanks. That's all.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Mike Tucci, any questions?
To follow up with Bruce's question, with the electrical upgrades, do you know if you're going to do an exterior shutoff switch for the electrical?
I believe we are, but I'm not as familiar with the electrical. The town electrician is working on that.
Okay, no further questions. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. I think I just have one question too, along Mike's comment about aesthetics, more about the lattice. Is that going to be like a painted lattice? Like, do you have a sense of what that's going to look like?
We've seen it done at Shuttle Meadow Golf Course. I don't know if any of you have played there. I brought a picture of kind of what it looks like, just so that you can kind of get an idea. This is obviously a little bit more in depth, and I can have you guys pass this picture around. But it has a nice kind of,
Thank you.
nice kind of aesthetic to it.
Yeah, just asking because I know that's kind of at the front of the course. And
Yeah, we obviously won't have the nice
Okay.
pillars,
All
but
right.
we're
That's
expecting.
very helpful to understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the only question I had. Any others, commissioners, anything else come up? Good. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Can we get a motion and a second, please?
Are you accepting or approving?
Approve.
New
Or-
business, so it would be an approval if that's what the commission chooses.
All right, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the site plan application to convert pavilion for use as golf cart storage area and install a 20 by 40-foot tent for seasonal use made by Westwood Golf Course and Recreation Center located at 14 Westwood Drive in an R40 zone.
Second.
Any discussion? Everybody good to vote?
Yep.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Best of luck. All right. Item number 2, David Occhialini, tried. If I massacred the name, I apologize. Site plan modification.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Mark Marcy from Don Hamburger Architects, and I'm here representing Reno Properties, who's the applicant for this. 4 or 5 years ago in 2020, Reno came forward and had a zone change from a BR zone to FCVZ zone. And they wanted to convert the existing office buildings at 790 Farmington Avenue into high-end apartments. So we got approval for buildings 1 and 4. I don't know if you're familiar, but there are technically 4 buildings that are back there. The back 2 are connected through a basement system. At that time, Reno did not own the entire facility, just the 2 buildings. So that's why he came forward at the time to do just 2. So today we're here to extend that approval to all 4 buildings. The changes that are being made are primarily internally. A few windows and doors have to be adjusted to meet code for the new residential compliances. And then the plan for the siding is to harvest some of the required siding from the, the southeastern side of the building, which is shown there on the plan, which is a section that's all the way up against the woods. It can't be seen from neither the rear or the front. Use that to infill the other areas and then reside that section of building with siding as close as possible to the existing. If we have plans that if that doesn't work, if the existing siding is not as faded as some of the other siding, because it is a little old, they will go forth and reside the remainder of the building with approval from architectural design. Any questions?
Thank you. Peter?
I may have a few.
Mhm.
I'll pass for now.
Okay. Liz?
I was just wondering how many units would then be available in total?
So in total, the plan is for about 30.
Okay. And this is more curiosity. Are they, so it's going to be first floor, second floor apartment, or are they going to be?
Not necessarily, because I don't know if you've ever been in those buildings, but they're
I-
a little awkward.
Okay,
They don't have a full 3rd floor. They have kind of a mezzanine area there. So some units would be single floor, some would be multi-floor. No 3 floor, but some would be on 2 levels.
and in it's already a building in use, so it's got fire hazard and all that sort of stuff, like it's got proper access, but you do need to change a few, was some doors and windows.
Yes.
Okay. How extensive is that going to be?
The exterior is shown on the elevation here.
Okay.
Most of it is, we're trying to retain as much as possible. So
Okay.
some of the windows only need to be increased by a couple inches.
Okay.
But some are infilled due to interior layouts, whether it's a kitchen or some new demising walls or things like that.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Hi, are you anticipating any traffic change, less or more traffic with this?
In the end, I'm sure there would probably be less in and out traffic just because of a residential use. Typically, people leave in the morning and come back in the evening. So it'd be less use than I would say in and out that happens with the commercial use.
And are you seeing any lighting or signage changes because of change in use?
There would probably be some upgraded site lighting, which I don't know if that's been addressed yet due to what's not there right now. But it would be at a very minimum and less than really what's required for commercial use.
Okay. I have nothing else right now. Thanks.
Bruce?
Pardon me. Are you going to maintain a leasing office or a management office?
Not on site.
Would not be part of it. Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
So just refresh my memory, the zone's already been changed and coming before us because of the changes that you have to actually make to the building.
The site plan modification.
Yeah, no questions. Thank you.
Well, let me go to Mike Tucci quick first, Peter, and I'll come back to you. Mike Tucci, any questions?
Not at the moment. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mike. Peter?
It looks like it from the aerial, but just to confirm, is there ingress and egress front on Backage Road from that
Yes.
side? Okay.
Yeah, you can entrance and exit from Backage Road or out there to the north of the bank.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think I have any questions. If I remember, Shannon, this was a result of the pandemic, essentially the original,
To a certain extent,
yeah,
yes,
the move from
Certain
commercial space to housing.
correct. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think too, from a functionality for office being so far set back off the road and
Yeah.
Backage Road coming through, while to a certain extent improves access through there, it's still remote from an office standpoint. So,
And parking's fine because it's less than, I think he said in the review is less than what
correct.
is required for. a
The
commercial space.
demand, so on a per square foot basis, because the office is done on a per square foot and the parking demand for residential is bedroom based. The parking demand is less with the conversion to the, to residential.
Sounds good.
One follow-up question.
Yeah, please.
Who deems whether the siding is good to go or not?
I would say the ADRC.
Okay.
So the ADRC's comments are in the agenda review. So page 2 of the agenda review has the comments incorporated.
No, as I read the comments, it's just as part of that, it's, like you said, if the siding doesn't meet a certain standard, then they go ahead and re-side the whole building, so it looks presentable, it looks good. And I just didn't know who actually deemed.
More than anything, so the photos, the siding is very old.
Yeah.
It has not been power washed in a very long time. So my guess is to a certain extent, it may just, understanding that as vinyl siding, it still does get brittle after a time. I
Mhm.
think it may, from a functionality standpoint, just be difficult harvesting that siding for use. But they will find that out as they go. And if it is too brittle and it won't work, then they will have to reside the buildings.
Okay.
So there's consistency. And they'll need a CO. Right, so but there'll be a building permit for this, which will come through our office, because the
Yeah.
planning department has to sign off on the building permits.
Thanks.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Follow-up questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, actually, I did have one.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Don't get too far.
This is a quickie. Are the other two buildings fully leased?
No, the construction has not started on those either.
Oh, on the
Correct.
two. Oh,
Correct.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Actually, can I just ask one more question?
Come on back.
There was a change to the name of the applicant. Is it RPG Farmington Commons LLC? Is that correct?
Yes. it is,
Yes.
correct.
Great. All
Okay.
right. Just want to make sure I get
Yes,
that right.
for the record, yes.
Thank you.
Now that he's sitting down, do we have any more questions? All right, can we get a motion in a second if there's no other questions?
Sure. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the site plan modification made by RPG Farmington Commons LLC to convert offices to residential use at Farmington Commons Buildings 2 and 3 at 790 Farmington Avenue in FCFV zone.
Second.
Any discussion needed? Everybody good with voting? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Best of luck. All right, we'll move on to our public hearing for tonight. Just a few sort of process comments before we jump in. This hearing will look somewhat similar to what you just saw. We'll ask the town to present the application. We'll ask some questions as commissioners, and then we'll open it up to the public, first to those in the room and then to those who might be online to speak for or in opposition to the application and share your thoughts. We generally ask that we try to keep comments to about 5 minutes or so per person, just to keep things moving. But we are very happy to get public input on applications like this. So thank you to all those who do that. So with that being said, we'll jump right into the public hearing, Town Plan and Zoning Commission.
Yes, Garrett actually is online. Garrett is
Okay.
going to present, and then the two of us will tag team any questions as we move through this.
All right. Good evening, everyone. For the record, Garrett Daigle, Assistant Town Planner. So this is a presentation on the proposed commercial vehicles text amendment. Just as a quick overview, Shannon, on the next slide. So as part of this proposed text amendment, we'll be adding definitions to Article 1, Section 9 definitions for commercial vehicle and for gross vehicle weight. We'll be revising Article 2, Section 1 permitted uses for residential or 80, 40, 30 zones. This then goes through all the other residential zones because they refer back to this section of the regulation. And then we'll be making some other changes to Section 8 off-street parking, general provisions, adding Section A, parking on residential properties, renaming the current Section A off-street bicycle parking standards to 8B, and then we'll be making some revisions to Section 13 landscape regulations. All of this is related to the commercial vehicle and in residential zones, just to kind of clean up some of the administrative and regulations as well. So first off will be Article 1, Section 9, adding a definition for commercial vehicle, which is any vehicle or equipment regularly used to carry, deliver, handle, or move goods in the conduct of business, commerce, profession, trade, or recreation, which exceeds a Federal Highway Administration FHWA Class 2 vehicle, exceeds a gross vehicle weight rating of 10 pounds, has more than 2 axles, or has a commercial license plate. Gross vehicle weight rating, GWR, the maximum operating weight mass of a vehicle as specified by the manufacturer, including the vehicle chassis, body, engine fluids, fuel, accessories, driver, passenger, and cargo, but excluding that of any trailers. So under Article 1 to Article 2, Section 1, which is our residential zones, permitted uses, accessory uses. Currently, the regulation says parking or storage of no more than 1 commercial vehicle, and then lists the 1.5 ton capacity or designed to have more than 4 wheels, or having a commercial accommodation plate. That'll all be removed, and it will now just reference you to Article 4, Section 8.A, parking on residential properties. As part of this, we're going to add a new bullet, parking or storage of trailers. This was all part of that E bullet above, so it's just separating it out into its own line. So when you're looking for parking and storage of trailers, now you're getting referred to a section as opposed to it being buried in there. Under off-street parking standards, Article 4, Section 8, we're removing specifications on the width of a driveway, and this is just getting moved to the parking in residential zones section. This is kind of buried. It's a paragraph after a list in that regulation. So again, it's just trying to clean that up a little bit for administration. All right, so this will be the new section, Article 4, Section 8A, parking on residential properties. The first item is the width of the driveway. Again, this is just being moved from the previous section I mentioned to this section. The grade of driveways for single-family homes shall not exceed 14%. Again, this is existing in the regulations, just being actually copied here. We're going to leave it where it is in the regulations right now, which is under our general parking regulation. And then in the case of a single family home, a turnaround area, circular driveway, or area immediately adjacent to the driveway for no more than 3 cars may be placed in the required front yard setback. No motor vehicles shall be parked or stored on landscape surfaces within the front yard. No motor vehicles shall be parked or stored in the required front yard in a second driveway of a single family home. That is taken from Section 13, which is our landscaping regulation. So again, just kind of put it in the right spot, so it's not buried in an obscure section. Continuing on, this will be the new commercial vehicle regulation. So commercial vehicles on parcels containing a residential use. The parking or garaging of commercial vehicles may be permitted on any property containing a residential dwelling unit as an accessory use only in compliance with this and subject to the following restrictions. Commercial vehicle not exceeding a federal highway weight class 3 vehicle and not exceeding a gross vehicle weight rating of 14 pounds may be parked or garaged, provided it also does not exceed 8 feet from the base of the wheel to the top, including any cargo, or 10 feet in cargo box length. All vehicles, regardless of gross vehicle weight rating, shall meet the following standards. No vehicles shall have more than 2 axles. No vehicles or screening for vehicles shall be parked or positioned so as to obstruct the view of traffic from adjacent driveways or streets. All commercial vehicles shall be parked on the driveway of the occupied residential lot and shall be parked closer than 5 feet from any adjacent property lines unless properly screened by a fully opaque fence or vegetation of at least 6 feet in height. Or may be parked behind the longest rear wall of the home in accordance with the parking and storage requirements for trailers, mobile homes, and recreational vehicles in Article 4, Section 9. The commercial vehicle shall be owned or operated by a permanent resident of the property on which it is parked. And then the number of commercial vehicles per lot shall not exceed the quantity in the table below unless a special permit is granted. In all residential zones, if you have 10,000 square feet or less, you're permitted 1 commercial vehicle. If you've got less than 20,000 square feet, you're allowed 2 vehicles. Less than 30,000 square feet, you're allowed vehicles. And greater than 30,000 square feet, you're allowed 4 vehicles. And that's the by right limits. And then I think lastly, this is just the Article 4, Section 13 landscape regulations, talking about the driveways and parking in the front yard, which again is just being removed and moved to the Section 8A residential parking. And just for context, we've included the images from the resources that staff had provided to the commission illustrating what vehicles commonly fall under these classes. So you've got the class 1, which is kind of a small pickup, a class 2, which is a 100 series or 200 series. And then the class 3 is usually a 300 series. And then anything over that would exceed what's permitted by the regulations. So there are some regular looking pickups that do exceed that wouldn't be permitted, but it also includes vehicles with a dump bed, oversized trucks. This image does include an RV, but again, that would fall under the mobile home parking regulation, just separate.
And that's it. So
That's
if you've
it,
got
sorry.
any questions, we can open it up to questions at this
Sure.
point. Mr. Chair.
Great. So is my understanding correct that if there's not if a use is not permitted under the zoning regulations, that's prohibited? That's what the backdrop of these regulations.
Correct.
Is the intent to allow commercial vehicles in addition to the 3 cars allowed in the driveway regulation?
I don't understand the question.
I guess my question is, so in the regulations as drafted under
So this is what's up on, so commercial vehicle not exceeding a class 3 vehicle or 14,000 pounds can be parked at a residential facility.
correct, and I'm trying to read that in conjunction with Section 8A, the general requirements, which is what speaks to having a driveway allowing
Sure.
the 3 cars. And I was wondering,
That was just, honestly, that's all, so that's commercial, any type of 3 cars in your residential driveway.
okay, so
So that's, all we did was take this and put all our residential parking requirement, rather than we had some in Section 8, some in Section 13. All we did was put it all together in one spot.
yeah,
So that's all that is just clerical, really.
Right.
So that really has nothing to do with directly for whether or not a vehicle is commercial or not commercial.
right, and I'm just trying to, what I want to understand better is whether under these regulations, the intent is to allow up to 2 or 3 or 4 commercial vehicles in addition to 3 non-commercial vehicles in the
No,
driveway.
it's vehicles.
Okay.
In the driveway. So, and this is for immediately adjacent to the driveway, no more than 3 cars placed in the required front yard setback. So that's in like a parking area, like if somebody created a side park, right? You've got 4 teenagers at home and you need an extra wide parking area so that you're not always having to shuffle cars around, right? You can have up to 3. And that's just, we're talking about in the front yard.
Mhm.
So if somebody's tucked it around back or has a larger lot and it's located elsewhere on the property, that's complies with the regulations. This is just regulating what's in the front yard.
Thank you.
Liz?
No, I don't think I have any questions at this time.
Dave?
Yeah, I don't have any questions right now. Thanks.
Bruce?
Just a quick comment, because this is our public hearing where we're discussing this. We've, as a commission, have been through discussing this for a
Yep.
while.
Yep.
I like that we've based the new reg on the federal highway admin class. I think that cuts out a lot of the variability we're looking at. I like that we have based the amount of vehicles you can have on the size of the property, because I think our goal is to balance the needs of the homeowners with making sure neighbors and others are fairly treated. As always, this commission is in a balancing act. So I like what we've done. The only thing I think I put a comment forward in on that that I thought would be useful was that no matter how big your property is, I think you should top out at 3 vehicles and need a special permit to come if you want to have more. That seems to be excessive, and what kind of a business you're running. Why would you need that? How many things are you towing? So my perspective was that I would like to see us top out at 3, not 4, as we have it currently drafted. Just wanted to share that.
Mhm.
That's it for me.
Thanks, Bruce.
Just a little clarification on the class 3. So a class 3 commercial vehicle, that's those permissions right there.
Correct,
That chart right there is for class 3 commercial vehicles.
correct.
And then the only way that somebody can have a class 4, beyond a class 3 on their property is if it's
No,
by rules in A right there.
no. A commercial vehicle not exceeding a class 3 vehicle and not exceeding 14,000 gross vehicle weight. A class 4, a class 3, anything above a class 3 is not permitted on a residential property.
Gotcha. Okay.
Unless,
Unless it's an
so unless it's an RV, yes, but that's,
Different reg.
so.
Yeah.
An RV has always been treated separately.
Yeah.
So,
I just looked it up. There's 43,560 square feet per acre. So that's a pretty easy calculation. So when you go down to that chart,
correct,
um,
right.
it seems reasonable.
So basically it's a quarter rate, but there's 1 vehicle per quarter acre.
Sure.
Is what, and then if you're over an acre, then you're topped out at, just the way this is written, you top out at 4.
Yep.
And then you could come to the commission. So if you have a 5-acre lot or 6-acre lot, which we have in town, and for whatever reason have a need for more larger vehicles, then they can come to the commission for a special permit and have that conversation.
It's replacing numbers.
I did just think.
So basically a class 1 and class 2, as many are not regulated at
I
all,
got 'em.
right? As many
I'm
as you
good.
want,
Clear.
unless there's a commercial plate on it. If it's a commercial plate, then it's gonna fall into this regulation.
Yep.
And then
Good.
no more than 2 axles, but it will accommodate then dualies. So if you've got a pickup truck with a dually, that should be fine because it's 6 wheels. So we got rid of the 6 wheels and left it at 2 axles.
I mean, so I can see that it's trying to allow what's reasonable. And then if you're, trying to run a business out of your residential property and trying to store big box trucks in your driveway, it's not allowed.
Correct.
Simple.
Good?
Good.
All right. Mike Tucci, any questions?
No questions. I mean, I believe we had questions along the way of the process of this. I just had a question for Shannon/Garrett. Did we get any letters about this from the public? I know we usually go over that at the end. I'm just curious while we're discussing.
No, the only correspondence we received was from our commission member, which I included in the
Okay,
agenda.
thanks so much. That's it for me.
Thanks, Mike. Liz, you had a question?
Just a quick clarification. Farm equipment is completely separate, correct?
The town of Farmington is not regulated farm equipment,
Okay.
and this regulation
I-
does not do that
right.
either.
That's what I remembered. I just wanted to clarify that.
No.
Okay.
I was just hoping to get some clarity to the commercial vehicle regulation with a better standard. And to a certain extent, allow a little more latitude, understanding that today's vehicles are notably larger than they had been in the 80s when this regulation first came into existence. That was the goals.
Yeah, I know. I personally find this much easier and more understandable and much clearer.
Hmm.
In my opinion. I think we figured it out, hopefully.
They figured it out.
They figured, I should say, you, Garrett, the planning office figured it out, and we nodded our heads and said, yes. Agreed.
Well, I was gonna ask Shannon, maybe it would be helpful for like a quick refresh on why we got started on this to begin with, because it's been a couple of months of conversations, I think.
Sure, which I think is enumerated in the agenda review, but I'm happy. I think I'm going to I'll go from the agenda review for the most part, but correct, we did start under planners report, started conversations back in May of 2025, discussing the current regulation and the challenges with the language of the current regulation. And we discussed nomenclature with respect to 1.5 ton payload capacity, et cetera, some of those elements, and that's not a nomenclature that's consistently used among manufacturers or consistently used in the industry really anymore. And there's been a shift to gross vehicle weight ratings, and the discussion also about combination plate versus commercial plate and how that has changed and is somewhat ambiguous within the DMV and Connecticut general statutes, and trying to find clarity on that as well. So we then proceeded to do research and did find the standards for the FHWA nomenclature with the classifications, which I have. I'll open that up so that we've got that for reference as we're talking. Which is not, that's the application. So this is the FHWA chart, the nomenclature for the vehicle classes and the weight rating, then the gross vehicle weight rating. And then this is the reference document that's embedded into the presentation. Garrett took the images from this and reviews the classification and typical vehicles that would be associated with each classification. So we reviewed that with the commission through the course of the summer. And then we also had researched other municipal regulations. We looked at Plainville, Enfield, South Windsor, I think Weathersfield, a handful of others, to try to get a sense for how some of the other communities are addressing this. Some are quite restrictive, others are more liberal. I think we took a middle of the road approach. And again, we did this throughout June and July. In August, Garrett drafted the regulations, and we presented a draft to the commission in September at the first meeting. And the commission agreed that basically that's the same form that has been presented this evening. We formalized that and went through, and it was accepted at the September meeting for the hearing scheduled this evening. So it was really from an enforcement and clarity standpoint. I think as even the commission was surprised when we talked about a combination plate and no more than one combination plate technically on a property. And that it can at times be challenging from an enforcement standpoint. So the intent was to add clarity to that and an appropriate relaxation without a full relaxation of this, so that the commission still has some control and hopefully gives us something that's workable.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Sure.
Any other questions, commissioners, before we open it to the public? All right, this is a public hearing. If there's anybody in the room that would like to speak for or in opposition, come on up to the podium.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Josh Davidson, 74 Basswood Road. I appreciate Shannon bringing this issue to you guys several months ago and for you guys going through many different iterations of it. The current regulation certainly is outdated and needed revision. I am a resident who has reached out to Shannon in the past regarding enforcement of the old regulation, and I recognize that it is outdated and challenging. But I'm also someone who's had to deal with a neighbor who has commercial vehicles, multiple vehicles in their backyard, and something that I personally don't find that I want to look at. And so I'm encouraged by what's happening here. I think it's an appropriate balance of sort of commercial needs and residential needs, but I have some feedback and some suggestions that I'd like to see the commission consider. So I think that the commercial vehicles should be either parked in a garage or they should be screened, and they should be screened whether they're in the front yard or the backyard. I certainly wouldn't want to live next to someone with 3 or 4 large commercial vehicles, 12, 13,000 pounds, parked wherever they may be in the backyard, even on an acre lot. That to me is not something that I think is conducive to a residential neighborhood or area. And I don't think that is appropriate. I would encourage the commission to look at the screening regulations and consider something more. Second, we're allowing vehicles up to 8 feet high, but require screening no more than 6 feet high. Screening is, to me, is to the point is to make it so you can't see it from an adjoining property. So I'd encourage us to think about that differently. I do like how you included in there opaque screening, which was more specific, and I think that improved from some of the earlier versions. So I think that's great. I do think that the conversation, the question you asked Peter about the 3 vehicles versus 4, I think that's worth revisiting, because I don't think it makes sense to allow 4 commercial vehicles when there's really a limit of 3. I also feedback for Shannon or Garrett, like we should probably update the current regulation where it says cars, I believe was the word, or automobile. It was something, it didn't say motor vehicles. And so I think you're going to end up with a conflict where the current old regulation says 3 cars or something like that, and does not include the trucks. And so you could have an additive situation where people think you can park 3 of those plus 3 of these commercial or gross, high gross vehicle weight. So I think that does need cleanup. I think Garrett said that section 8A, section C2C, I believe it was, where it was, oh, sorry, that's my mistake. Let's scratch that. On the point of A2 with the grade of driveways, I think Garrett, that's the point I wanted to make. I think Garrett said that that was just copied from an additional section, and I believe he was saying it was duplicated from a different section for convenience. And if that's the case, just my understanding as a best practice, you never want to duplicate a regulation like that, because then when you go to change it, somebody changes one part of it and forgets to change the other because they didn't know it was there. So I'd suggest they look at that just from a procedural standpoint. And to Mike Tucci's point, just about asking whether you got any letters or not. Well, this has been talked about for many months. For several of those months, this was in the planner's report, which was never actually listed on the agenda as an item. Shannon made a change and started listing her planner's report items more specifically in the agenda, which I appreciate. But to expect most residents to have noticed an agenda on Thursday or Friday of last week and provided any kind of feedback and digested any of this information, I think is insufficient, and I encourage the commission to wait to deliberate, further and make sure that the town residents are notified of this in a more robust way than simply posting an agenda. I think people need to have right and an interest in knowing. And that's it. I appreciate all of your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room?
My name is Matt Pogson. I live at 270 Brickyard Road. This came up, Josh is my neighbor, as you guys already know. He's had an issue with vehicles that have been parked in my backyard. So this is not the only reason it came up, but because of it, I've spent a lot of time over the last few months talking with Shannon, trying to talk with Josh, trying to find ways to make everything kind of, I don't know, work for everybody. I put up some screening, as a matter of fact, and I was told that it's not very good screening. So I need to do something different for screening. So the whole part about screening there, that might be something, the opaque screening, I get that. But even when a neighbor may try to screen something, it ends up not being good enough. Then you might end up finding out that it's still a problem with them, that you have things on your property. So I'm not sure how that screening part all works out. But as for the vehicles themselves, I think what Shannon has done is very thoughtful. I think she's put a tremendous amount of time and energy into this. I'm really impressed with how she was able to whittle it down and make it very clear. And the only thing that I've had some issue with, which is probably a minority group of us in town who have grown up with, heavy equipment or trucks on a regular basis on our farms. The 1.5 tons that used to be in there, 1.5 tons, would normally have referred to a vehicle that was in the 450 class, in the 4 Series, not a 350. So I know many of you are like, oh, wow, that's a big vehicle. It can haul a lot. But a F-350 these days is actually the same size as an F-250. If I parked the two things next to each other and took the badges off of them, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. They're exactly the same frames. They use the same doors. They use the same fenders. They use the same engines and drivetrains. The only difference typically is the gear ratio in the rear end and a few extra leaf springs to make it so it has a heavier capacity to haul. So the question then becomes, is it about whether it's a commercial vehicle or is it about the size and shape of the vehicle? I've always understood that it was about it being a commercial vehicle, but also that it is a different vehicle. It is something that is beyond what a normal vehicle would be in a driveway. So I do think, in my opinion, this should be started at the class higher than a class 3, because an F-350, like I said, parked next to an F-250, no one's going to know the difference. So driving around town, you're going to see a vehicle and you're, oh, that guy's breaking the rules. He's got 2 of those in his driveway and he's only on a 1/4 acre lot. Well, the reality is that the badge is literally the only thing that's different between that. So I think it's going to be an enforcement nightmare, honestly. I think it's going to make it more difficult. And I know that I shared that concern with Shannon. I don't think she's terribly concerned about it, which is okay. But I do think that it's going to end up being a big issue. If you were to go to the 450, which is the 1.5 ton vehicle, truly that's what it was always rated as, then it is a totally different animal. It's got a different frame, it's got different engines, it's got different components, different body parts. So that ends up being a much more noticeable difference. But if this is the way that it ends up, it doesn't even affect me. So I mean, it honestly doesn't. If it's at 4 vehicles on a 2-acre lot, it's not a big deal. One thing I do want to go back for, everybody's brought this up now about the 3 cars and the other trucks. I think you're all misunderstanding that that's in the front yard, which is within 40 feet of the road. So if it's within 40 feet of the road and you've got 3 cars out, or you have 4 at that point, then that's a problem, regardless of what it is. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. However, you end up with a neighbor like Josh and you put your vehicles behind the back wall like you're supposed to do. And then you end up having neighbors that are irritated that it's back there. So it's kind of a catch-22. I think, like I said, she put a lot of thought into it. It's a very clear regulation at this point. I'm okay with it, so I'm actually speaking in support of it. However, I will say, I do believe that either a vehicle at the 1.5 ton capacity should be allowed, or it should be changed to be the class 4. That's my opinion. Like I said, if it's left this way, it's not even going to affect me. I just want to add to another point. I know you gave 5 minutes and I don't want to take too much time, but I would put them inside. I would put them in a structure. I would put them away. But in Farmington, we have regulations about how much unfinished space you can have on your property. So I can subdivide my back lot. I can build the whole thing. I can put 3 houses back. That's actually what it was planned to be done. And I actually recombined the subdivision back in the day to keep it on a nice 2-acre plot. But I can't actually build a second structure back there. Like I can't go build a barn if I wanted to, because technically I don't have the amount of finished space to allow that. So although I would like to cover them, I would like to make it so my neighbor doesn't have to look at them, I actually can't. But unless I come in here or unless we figure something else out to make it happen. But I've kind of got my hands tied. I also can't grow trees over in that corner. I've tried several times, and unfortunately they all die. So unfortunately, it's not really something I can help with the putting up some sort of screening in that way. But I think that covered everything that was brought up. I wasn't even sure if I was going to speak tonight. The reality is, again, it's not going to affect me. I did have one last question for Shannon, actually. What happens for any circumstances where these regulations, where somebody is not actually like violating it, but is going to now? Are they grandfathered in? Or
So they technically, yes, if the zoning reg, I believe, and I can take a look at the 1.5 ton versus the class 4. We'll look at that again. The purpose of this was to make this equally or somewhat less restrictive. So my personal thought is that if someone is in violation under this new regulation, they were likely in violation under the prior regulation.
Did you look into anything in regards to my concerns about affecting any of the farms? Because all farmland in Farmington's in residential zones. So
Again, we're not, the intent is not to regulate the farms. And this is, we're looking at trucks, not our farm tractors.
correct. I guess my question would be, would it be prudent then to put something in there saying that farms are exempt from it, or something to that degree?
I suppose the commission can consider that if that's something that they choose to.
Right.
It hasn't been in there to date.
No, and it hasn't been the same.
It hasn't been to date. It's basically the same or less restrictive. But that's certainly something for the commission to consider.
And that may be something that the commission doesn't know, but in town, we don't have an agricultural zone. All the farms in town are on residential properties, except for my parents who are actually in a business zone. But they could technically end up with neighbors. And as we get more urban, we have more people moving into town that don't necessarily share the values of our farming community, then we may find that they're trying to enforce some of these regulations on people who have been here for a very long time, just trying to have a livelihood. So that is a concern of mine as well. Thank you for giving me more than 5 minutes. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Anyone else in the room? Okay. Shannon, do you want to check online?
Sure. If anyone is called in to offer comment on the commercial vehicle regulation, please raise your hand using the feature in Zoom and you'll be acknowledged to address the commission. Again, if anyone is called in to offer comment on the commercial vehicle regulation, please raise your hand using the feature in Zoom and you'll be acknowledged to address the commission. Mr. Chair, there are no hands raised.
Okay, thank you. Shannon, do you want or Garrett want to respond to any of the comments or questions raised? I know you did to some of them, but is there anything else you wanted to?
Sure. Sure. With respect to screening, again, I will leave that to the commission's thought and discretion. We can take a look if there's some thought that we need to rework how screening is discussed in the regulation, which is no vehicle or screening for vehicles shall be parked or positioned to obstruct traffic or from the driveway or streets. And they shall be parked on a driveway occupied on a residential lot and shall be parked no closer than 5 feet to an adjacent property unless fully screened. So if it's further than 5 feet from the property, the screening isn't required, but no closer than 5 feet from any adjacent property lines unless properly screened by a fully opaque fence or vegetation at least 6 feet in height, or may be parked behind the longest rear wall of the home. Again, this is what the same metric that's used for trailers, mobile homes, recreational vehicles, et cetera, in Article 4, Section 9. So that's the same metric. The 6-foot screening, it's a 6-foot fence is what is a typical thought process. If you want a truly opaque, right, a vegetative buffer is going to take a little bit to grow in. It's unless you're standing right there, nose to nose, and if you're looking over at somebody from your second floor window, a 6-foot fence isn't going to do anything anyhow. And depending on elevation types and topography changes, parcel to parcel, there's going to be some limitations with screening anyhow, depending upon topography. But that's the metric that's currently in place. I believe this is wording that's similar to Plainville and Enfield regulations. I think we obviously modified it a bit for us. The 4 vehicles in 3 cars and that terminology, I'll take a look at. I think this, so the 3 cars probably should be 3 vehicles instead of cars. Again, I don't even know how long, because that was pulled out of our landscape regulation and pulled into here. I believe in the case of a single family home, a turnaround area, circular driveway, or area immediately adjacent to the driveway for no more than 3 cars may be placed in the required front setback. Again, that's in addition to just a standard driveway. So if you have a 2-car garage and you've got a 2-car width driveway, kind of a 20-foot wide driveway going all the way up, that's not what this is really referring to. This is in addition to that, a side parking area that you want, or circular drive, that an entire, right, a circular drive is going to come all the way through. We don't want 8 cars. Now, that's not to say you're having a family reunion or a graduation party. That's not what we're talking about. This is a everyday, day in and day out. There's 8 cars parked in your front yard. That's what we're talking about. But we can certainly look at that, change that term to vehicle and make it consistent with whatever we land on in the chart. With respect to the reference on the 14% grade, that's fine. Whether we can refer back to the other one, we just put it in here for ease of reference. It's not really married to that one way or the other. Public notice, it's entirely up to the commission. It's been discussed over multiple months. It has been on the agendas. It's been on the agenda reviews. They're all posted to the website. It was accepted at a public meeting on September 27th. CROGs were noticed. The adjoining municipalities were noticed. The meeting notice, yes, the agenda was posted on Wednesday or Thursday, whenever it went out. We have not received, actually, the only inquiries I've received are from the gentlemen who have spoken this evening. And I have not received any written comment. So completely, as usual, it's at the commission's discretion as to whether or not you feel you want to close this or continue. And then we can look into the 1.5 ton versus the class 4 if the commission thinks they want to take a look and allow a class 4. My concern is the class 4 introduces the dump body trucks, and I don't think at that point those are dump body trucks. I don't think the graduated chart is appropriate for this level of vehicle. Well, that's the chair's discretion.
Yeah, if you come up to the podium, please.
Yeah, I will. Stay for the record again, Matthew Coxon, 270 Brickyard Road. I've actually watched all of the videos about all of this and listened to all of you talking during all of the meetings about all of this. Dump bodies can be put on anything. So it doesn't matter whether or not it's a 450, a 250, whatever. I mean, you have mini trucks running around town now that have dump bodies. So you'll find a flatbed, you'll find a dump body, you'll find it on any size vehicle. It's not that it's a restricted thing. So I just wanted to make it clear, you're not going to get dump bodies just because it's a 4500 series or a 450. That's all. It could be for something else. It could be on something else rather. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's,
Okay.
I
Just wanna
guess
make sure
really
you-
that's a conversation. If that's something the commission wants us to look
Yeah.
at further and come back in November, we can try. And I guess I'd like some, if that is something you want us to look at and further, I need some feedback as to what you're finding concerning or not, or what we want to look at. So when we look, the DMV, when I drilled into DMV and combination plates, which was a lovely trip down through Connecticut General Statute. Combination plate, I want to say 12,500 was the limit for a combination plate, and then it's mandatory that anything over 12.5 is a commercial plate, period. So, and then this, hang on, let me go back to this. You're permitted on property. So a commercial vehicle not exceeding a class 3, not exceeding a gross vehicle weight of 1,400 pounds. 14,000, excuse me. Parked, garaged. Yeah, so that's. That's where we are with this. So. I think I responded to the comments made.
No, appreciate
So I
that.
don't know if
Thanks.
everybody, if that spurred other thoughts, comments.
That's why we're just going to ask thoughts or questions that any of this conversation has spurred.
I like the limit that we've put on class 3. I mean, if you took a class 3 and you put a dump bed on it and you exceeded the gross vehicle weight, you end up with a disallowed vehicle. And then I'm comfortable with the limit at class 3, the way it stands, that we have based on what we've heard. And I think both gentlemen have, made great public comments, and their thoughts were well considered and useful for us. And while we have been doing this for a while, if we do decide to continue the public hearing till the November meeting, I'm okay with doing that too. In the event of trying to get even more public comment, I don't think that's a terrible idea. We don't have to be in a rush. to close this off, even though we have been at it for a long time. But that's sort of where I'm coming down.
Yeah, I would be in favor of moving this over to another day, because I do think there are some things that sort of caught my attention tonight that I hadn't really considered before. Starting with the low hanging fruit, I do think the car turn needs to be changed. Just looking at it, I think creates an ambiguity. I think we might also want to take a look at that in regards to how the restriction on the parking spaces for the rest of the driveway are also tailored, and make sure it's consistent with that, just so that there's no like unintended consequences of permitting a lot more cars than we have under the existing regulation. I tend to agree on the class, saying the restriction at class 3. I'd like a little bit more information on that, but we have to draw an arbitrary line somewhere that is enforceable and can be dealt with. And so I appreciate the comments, but I don't really know another way of approaching it other than what Shannon has come up with. And I thought the farmland comment was very good, and that's not something that crossed my mind in the past. I don't know if it came up in any discussions where I wasn't present, but I think that's something that we want to make sure we're not, again, no unintended consequences of punishing any of the farmland uses that might be sort of caught up in this.
Thank you. So Shannon, if we're going to like tinker with some of the things that Peter just mentioned in particular, we want to continue this anyway, right? To allow for some of that language. Okay, I just want to be.
Yep,
clear
absolutely.
on that. So
Yeah, that's
we're
the
likely
cleanest-
heading in that direction, but I just want to make sure that's.
It's the cleanest way.
Process
If we
wise.
think we want to edit some of the language, that's the cleanest way to just leave this open.
Yep, okay. Other thoughts from anybody?
Just a question, a little side question, I guess, with the farmland thing, like what are we calling a farm? Is it just because someone calls their property a farm, they're allowed to have it a farm?
No, there's a state designation for farms in our town of Farmington regulation. I believe it's 5 acres or greater. So, but there is a state designation for farms as well.
And do we,
And no, I don't have that at my fingertips.
no, but do we
I
mark
believe
them in
somebody
some
in the
way?
audience
Do we have
does,
them,
But I don't.
do we have them listed in some way? Like, do we know all
No.
the farms here? No.
No, I mean, our flats, I know them like intuitively, we
Right.
know them. And the flat, right, the flats, which is all floodway anyway, or most of it is floodway and floodplain, so we're not putting homes or anything else on that. There's Krell, there's Groton, there's Hine, there's the Pogsons, land and area, so there's probably other, there's Sub-Edge.
I live next to a farm.
Yeah, it's 5 acre and it's in the zoning regulations, and I can pull it up if they really want it. So yeah, there's a zoning definition, but there's also a state classification of farmland.
But it wouldn't be hard to put in here that, I don't know how you'd word it, but excluding farms.
We can, we take a look at that. We can take, typically, the regulations have been permissive. And I want to be careful about putting in language that lists things that aren't permitted, right? That are exclusive, because we do fall back to, if it's not in the regulation, it's considered prohibited. So if in other areas I start listing out that this is excluded or this is prohibited, but I'm not doing the same thing somewhere else, I don't want that to start to be problematic for us. So I want to be really careful with how we do that.
That makes a lot of sense. I will say that I think comments were very valuable, different perspectives, and I think we need a little bit of wordsmithing.
Mhm.
I think the intent, and this has been, since it has taken so long, and it is kind of a tough nut to crack, but I think we are really well down the road to crafting this, so I think maybe we hold off and do a little wordsmithing and then come back. I also agree that I think a class 3 is probably, that's a good spot. And as someone, this is just my personal experience, there are a lot of really big trucks out there in the world, and I always tend to feel like a small bug on the road when the grill is. So that's just my personal feeling, but they have their place, but also not in your front yard. So that's my opinion.
So do we have a list of things for wordsmithing?
Can I ask a few questions?
Oh,
to
let's-
clarify?
yeah. Yep.
So one is this only motor vehicles or trailers also?
No, not trailer, because trailers fall
Commercial
into
trailers,
article-
dual axle trailers for cars,
So-
horses, that kind of thing?
So trailers, any residential trailer, whether you're using it to just haul debris to Tungus Mead on Wednesdays and Saturdays, or you've got a snowmobile box or a RV or a whatever, any trailer, it falls onto Article 4, Section 9. Period.
Because I tend to agree, and I think I brought this up a couple meetings ago, that there is no difference between a class 3 and a class 2, the same size vehicle. The difference is the plate. So you get a 2500, you can get a residential plate, a regular plate. You get a 3500, you have to get a commercial plate. They're the exact same truck. Look the same, feel the same. I own one. And I only have one, so this doesn't affect me at all. But just to clarify, they're the same size. So when you go to class 4, it's just a bigger vehicle, takes up more space, right? Looks different. And I think that's what we're worried about, is having these big vehicles on property that are big commercial vehicles, box trucks, these huge vans where you need a ladder to get your stuff off the top. Like there's some big vehicles that really shouldn't probably be parked in residential lots. I live next to a farm. It's a horse farm. You just expect these vehicles on farms, but I never even thought for a second that there was a restriction on how many trucks could be on a farm. You know, tow vehicles. So you said there's no restriction on tractors and farm equipment. I get that. But, you know, some of these farms, like horse farms, have multiple tow vehicles. So, you know, and so I think some clarification there, because you know, I live in a very residential neighborhood. Put it that way, and none of us or any of the neighbors notice, I guess you'd say. So I think there probably should be a little more clarification, whether we make an exclusion for farms or a certain number of acres, anything over 5 acres, something like that, where, you know, you can have more than the 3 vehicles or whatever we're allowing. It's just, to me, and I understand the differences in all these vehicles, and I understand what everybody's talking about, but I'm still a little fogged on a couple of things. So I would say maybe extend it one more meeting.
Mike Tucci, I don't want to forget Mike's on the line there. Any
I'm
thoughts?
also happy with extending the meeting. I think it'd be great for public to know more, get involved if they want to comment or not. That's all.
Thanks. Okay, thanks, Mike. Yeah, I think it's like 95% of the way there, Shannon. It's going to be a whole lot better than what we had. I don't want to lose sight of that as we get into the minutia. And at the same time, it's not going to be perfect. And it may be something that needs to get looked at down the line. That maybe is me now passing the buck, but maybe I'll start doing more of that. But it's going to do a whole lot better than what we've got now, no matter where we come out a meeting from now or 2 meetings from now, whatever it works out to be. I'm stuck on the farm thing because I get the points that are being made, but I also see what you're saying about how we've structured the regulations to be.
It's never, there's been no, so I'm back to how the regulation's been written to date.
Yeah.
And we didn't change that. We changed just the definition of what we're calling a commercial vehicle. So the number of trailers on a farm, the number of farm vehicles, that's not what this has ever been about.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I just wonder if we start putting that language in, does it make the regulation more confusing or less? Because we're not consistent with how we're talking in other regulations. I don't know.
And if
Yeah.
it becomes a problem, they can always ask for this with the special permit, we said. If you need to exceed a number.
I can't hear you.
We're allowing special permits. We said if people need to exceed a number.
Correct.
Right, so if someone did complain, the people on the farm could come over and ask for a special permit, I suppose.
Correct. It does put a burden on, right, so I wouldn't, again, I would not necessarily apply this to a farm. We haven't to date, and that would not be the intent moving forward, understanding that, yes, they are residentially zoned, but they are not functioning as a single-family residential property. Right, so the function of those, even if they happen to have a single family, the farmhouse is on the farm. Sometimes the farmhouse is on the farm property, sometimes it's not.
Right.
Nonetheless, but even then, in our farm definition, there are setback requirement for barns and whatnot, so that to try to be cognizant of that line, right, as the farm merges into traditional residential developed areas that do have single or multifamily homes on it, that there's a buffer between the uses, and that's embedded into the regulation as well.
So Shannon, do you have, that somebody said it before, like, do you have the feedback and the input that you need from us to
I think so. I think
to
it
tinker and
sounds,
then come back?
what I might
next
do
time?
is see if I can get some more information on, I understand everyone's thought on the class 3 vehicle and leaving it where it is. I'll try to find out some more information on the class 4, just so that we've got it. The wordsmithing on the vehicles and car regulations and the parking on the driveway. And we'll take a look at farmland and get, what I'll do is I'll pull all our definitions up so that you've got those at the fingertips. How farm appears in our regulations and under what context. And then we can go from there.
Was there anything else? Peter, you're gonna say something?
Yeah, there two other things that come to mind. One was raised by you, Bruce, regarding the number of vehicles. I don't know if we wanted to discuss that. And then the other is a current comment by Mr. Pogson regarding wanting to build coverage and of for the vehicles in rears of properties and running into issues with other restrictions and the regulations, whether we wanted to consider that and sort of promoting, building structure to enclose the vehicle so it's not an eyesore. If that's something we want to think, that might be too big of a thing to take up. I'm not saying that I want to do that, so.
Okay, I'm good, Mr. Chair.
We're now in our discussions, but thank you.
So I just was raising those two. If anyone else wanted to discuss those, I don't have a strong feeling either way on them.
That sounds like another conversation.
Yeah, potentially for another.
Yeah.
So if I can, so regarding coverage and buildings on a residential lot, there are multiple portions of the regulation that we use. So there's the expanded home provision, there's the accessory structure provision, expanded homes in Article 4, Section 30. Accessory structure is Article 4, Section 2. And our 75% habitable area is embedded in our residential definition regs right in Article 2, Section 1. So that would have to, if that's something the commission thinks they want to address, that's going to have to be a 2026 thing, because that is definitely, and that's a math exercise that we can go through and show you what we do on a handful of these as examples to see if that's something the commission thinks they want to tangle with. So, but that absolutely would be a separate thing. But with respect to the number of vehicles in this chart, certainly if the commission where everybody stands on this chart as it is. If there's thoughts on that, then we can certainly tangle with that. Is there any feedback other than Bruce?
I was gonna say, Bruce already told.
Well, he
I'm
already,
I'm not asking Bruce, but anybody else want to chime in on that?
I don't have an issue with that honestly, because, well, except for the fact that it's gonna be tough to enforce because you can't tell the difference. It's kind of like what Mr. Pogson said. It's like to have the regulation in there and you look and you're like, well, the difference between a class 2 and a class 3, it's.
yeah, but so when we
So
get.
like,
the
there's no problem, really. The way it's written, the way you have it written is fine.
So when we get a call, so the commission, and I think I've said this more than once, we do not go out looking for violations.
Yes.
We are way too busy. This is not what we do. So occasionally we stumble across them, and some of them are so blatant, obvious that we take care of them as we see them. But we are not going out running through everybody, counting vehicles and all the different
You just go look
yards.
when there's a complaint.
So when there's a complaint, then we address it. Typically, it's quite obvious, and unless it's one of the very large lots that are off, with a large yard and we can't see it from the road, there's aerial mapping. And then we also have the tax assessor's records that gives us a full listing of all the property taxes paid, including personal property. So we can get this information, and I don't even have to be on the property to know whether or not it's an F-250 or F-350 or an F-450.
So
Doesn't matter. So the enforcement on this, the look of the vehicle, I get it that it's the placard. I see my husband drives an F-150. I get it. And they look similar. It's like, oh, it's 250. And then they start to get bigger. The grill gets bigger. They get lifted up, whatever. I get it. I understand. But that's easy. That's the easy end of it, is figuring out what the vehicle is. And then it's a little more challenging finding out the commercial and combination plate was a challenge, because that we don't necessarily have those records.
Yep.
So, but this, and basically the commission needs to decide if we want to cap this out at 3 vehicles on a property up to, so this would be then greater, it would turn to anything greater than 20,000 square feet, 3 vehicles or more, because I can't have a gap in the square footage. Right? So that's how that would change. And we drop the 4 vehicle line. If you want to think about it and send me an email, that's fine at some point, but otherwise the chart will stay as is unless I get a overwhelming response to change this chart.
I think I'm good with it.
Me as well.
Same here.
Yeah, I'm happy with the chart.
Okay.
Good.
Then that's fine.
All right.
And people can change the right, whatever. Like I
Yep.
said, email me if there's and as you're reading through this again, if something else comes to mind, please email me.
Mhm.
Right?
Sounds good.
It doesn't have to wait till the next meeting if something comes to mind. So, but yes, we'll need a motion to continue then.
Yeah,
Mr.
just
Chair.
want to check anything else we want to bring to Shannon's attention.
We're not changing the height of the screening or anything like that, right? That was not part of it.
The screening only has to
Landscaping
exist if you're parking it like
Right.
right on the property line.
A different
Yeah.
issue.
So it's part of the reg. So again, think about it. So we all heard the public comments. If there's something that you feel strongly needs to change, provide that feedback to me within the next week to 10 days, because at that point, then we'll be doing the agenda review to get ready for the next meeting. Okay?
All right, so we're continuing to November
12.
12th. Thank you. Can we get a motion and a second to continue to the 12th?
Do we have to read the whole thing? Motion to continue this public hearing until November 12th.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion passes. Thanks, everybody. Shannon, planners report.
Okay, we got a few planners reports items here. Okay. First item is a sign going in. This is at sorry. Other business technically is next. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Oh,
I jumped right in the planner's report.
The schedule.
So other business
Oh,
is
sorry.
technically the 2026 meeting schedule. Let me
I
pull
missed
that
it too.
up. 1 second. Sorry about that. There we go. The 2026 meeting schedule, looking primarily at the second and fourth Mondays. There's an occasional Wednesday. We've got one in May for Memorial Day. So, and it looks like next year we're able to get our November meeting on a Monday. So, which is how Veterans Day falls. So there's no need to change. We think we made a note. We've got April break, and we'll deal with that in January and make sure we've got quorum for April break or adjust accordingly.
Yeah, because I'm not gonna be here in April.
Okay.
But other than that, it looks fine.
Yeah, that's an issue over here.
Mm.
Not you.
Technically is an issue.
What
yes.
we found is we've tried to juggle it in the past and we can't with the town, with the budget meetings
That's all.
and then the town meeting and vote. If we need to, like, as we approach and we think we might not have quorum, then we'll have to cancel the meeting and we'll adjust our hearings accordingly, as I know we're coming into that. So.
Anybody feedback or concerns?
Does it help if we all actually give based on that schedule, when we're gonna be absent if we know it? Like, does it help?
We can do,
You
it
can
just,
or you can
as we
just
do
go
it
to
per meeting or a couple of meetings in advance,
Okay.
because typically, very rarely, I can't even think of an instance where we've had to cancel a meeting because TPZ didn't have quorum. With nine members, and I think 5 is the quorum, we're,
Pretty good.
yeah, it hasn't been.
I would say challenge accepted. It's not a challenge accepted opportunity.
It's okay, we can kick those cans down the road. It just gonna make for really long nights when we do meet. That's okay.
Sure you're gonna win.
No. There's no sure thing ever.
We don't need to vote on that, right?
Yes, yeah,
So
no, I
this
need a
is
motion. I need a motion and a second and a vote. Yes,
I
please.
thought I was trying to remember.
Yes, please.
I'm gonna look at Dave.
I'm gonna like to make a motion that we adopt the 2026 meeting schedule.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion passes.
Okay, now we'll go to planners report items. Okay, first up is a sign at 353 Scott Swamp. It's a building sign mounted on the building. This is the plaza that's got Fancy Bagels in it at the end of Route 6 heading out towards Bristol.
Yeah.
So you got Fancy Bagels is just here off the edge of the right-hand page. This area here has got the car detailer had moved in. There had been an imaging center and an orthodontist in here. All they're doing is replacing the sign. I know this sign looks like it's illuminated. It is, I've been back and forth quite a few times with the designer. It is not illuminated. So there's recessed lighting for those. So this is, again, a new tenant sign for this space. If the commission agrees, then I'm gonna have this just go directly to building. Okay. Head nods all the way around.
Yes.
Perfect. 94 Brickyard Road. Oh, my friends at 94 Brickyard. Okay, so you will recall that they received approval in July for a parking lot, the expansion. The tennis courts had been here. We're taking out the tennis courts. We're going to put in a paved parking area to expand the parking for Big Sky. And this also went to the Inland Wetlands Commission, and before it had gotten to us. So the plan had evolved prior to it coming to our commission. I keep doing the same thing. I apologize. So in the very original plan, these two islands in the center island, these end cap islands is how we refer to them, they were depressed, recessed, if you will, by 6 inches to a foot for stormwater quality. And didn't really, and there was no outlet to them. There was no drainage, there was no outlet to them. So we talked with the designer and said, why don't we make these flush? And you can see with the contour coming right straight through, there's no curve, it's a flush edge. But put a water quality basin here off the edge, which then if it did overflow, it's going to overflow south, which is the natural drainage pattern. And then south through this parking to the edge, there's a drainage swale that runs along the south edge of the parking. I'm using for logistic purposes. Primarily it's north is straight up. It's a little off because Brickyard Road doesn't run exactly north-south, but we're going to call top of the page north and bottom of the page south. So and as part of this, we had asked them if lighting was going in a few times. No new lighting's going in. Okay, we thought that strange, but we asked the question, we got an answer. And then I got a building permit for 2 new light poles going in the new parking.
Surprise, surprise.
So the electrician pulled a building permit for the new light poles that had not been included on the plan. And when we got out there, we realized that this had not, basically they had done some type of hybrid design. These end cap islands are recessed. This water quality basin is not in. They have a sidewalk that connects off this southeast corner to the sidewalk that runs along the frontage into the building. I don't think this sidewalk went in. We had suggested the sidewalk go here midway and said it's coming here to the front. I think this comes to a mid-building entrance and not to their front entrance. So we took some photos. So there's that sidewalk that's supposed to be the water quality basin. That's an existing light pole here. That's an existing light pole over here. And I laugh because this happens not necessarily to this extent, but things like this happen more than I have to share with you on a regular basis. This was a little more so thus it's being shared with the commission. So this is one of the end islands. You can see that it is somewhat, it looks like there's a crown in the road. So half of the pavement's running towards the end island, the other half's running out towards the main parking area. You can see there's a yard drain that's been added in. So now the question comes, we don't know exactly where that yard drain's
Where does
connected
it
to.
go?
So, yeah, so there was that. That's the same one. And then this one does the same thing. So that there's a yard drain in that one at the end too. Oh, and they did, so there's a sidewalk anyhow to that pavilion. So.
And the lights?
In the lights, so there's a new light. So you can see, so there's a light pole there in the new end, in the one end island. And then there's a light. And then this new light pole here. So, and they all match. It matches the other lights for them to the best we can tell without having them, everything side by side. So, and then these are light levels. So the electrician has been, and quite honestly, even the Big Sky has been very conciliatory. What happened was the gentleman at Big Sky was confused and did not understand the nuance and the changes between the two plans. They went ahead and bid it out. And which is very typical. The civil engineer is not involved. And in this particular case, there's nothing that's triggering a building permit until the electrician needs the permit to run the electrical,
Yeah.
right? Because there's no functional building being installed. So again, it happens. So these are light levels. The pencil is what had been original light levels. The red is Bruce Sear went out 2 weeks ago on October 15th. I'm going to go out tonight after the meeting and take a look myself. But Bruce Sear had been out to check light levels. So the electrician had changed the color temperature of the light. So we've got color temperatures are 3,000, 4,000, and 5,000 Kelvin. And that has to do with the brightness and whiteness of the light. And so it had been set at 5,000, and I believe he knocked it down to 3,000. So that also then results in about a 10% reduction in the foot candle readings, which is for the most part what we saw across. So, and it also gives a warmer light. The 5,000 is very jarring. Most of the lighting in Farmington is at 3,000. Occasionally there's 4,000s. We max out. We don't permit anything above a 4,000 Kelvin in our color temperature. So, so the electrician's been responsive to try to correct this from a lighting intensity standpoint. Big Sky has been responsive. They got their engineer back involved, had a site meeting with their engineer. The engineer bravely came to see me immediately after their site meeting, unannounced. They got points for that, to come in unannounced and say, okay, we understand what's happened. And this is, they didn't just come and say, what do you want done? They had a few suggestions for fixing this. And then we added to it as we chatted, which is the list that's in the agenda review. So, and because this has a little more to it with respect to the documentation and the things I need verified, because this is in an aquifer. It's in the Sand and Stone Aquifer, part of, it pretty much is all of Brickyard Road, or most of Brickyard Road. So with that, I cannot have any underground dry wells. I cannot have any underground perforated pipe. An open basin is fine, but anything underground from a perforated infiltration standpoint, they will not allow anymore. Anything that's already been done that way is one thing, but we can't continue that practice moving forward. The thought being that if a hydrocarbon or contaminant gets into an at-grade basin, we can see it, we can address it and take care of it. And it's got at least some depth before it gets to the groundwater, as opposed to anything perforated in the ground, has a much shorter distance to get to groundwater. And it could go on for some period of time before there's anyone alerted to the fact that there's a contaminant that's seeping in through these either perforated pipes or open bottom yard drain. So that's what, in the meeting with the engineer, Cole, civil engineer and survey, after their meeting with Big Sky, and this is what I put in the email back to them with Big Sky CC'd on it, they have concurred to these requirements. So they've got to confirm that the yard drains are not dry wells, meaning that they're not open bottom on there, and confirm the pipes connected the yard drains are solid pipes and not perforated. They need to video these pipes to document and provide proof that everything is as they say they are, and that we know how they connect. Where do these pipes go and what is the connection? Because right now we don't have that information, and Cole did not either. So the only one that has it is the contractor, because the civil engineer wasn't notified when the project got started, which is very typical. Having been on the other end of this, we would do a project, quite honestly, once they got their approval, they don't want to pay the civil engineer anymore. They want to just go and deal with the contractor and get it done, and they're not paying the civil engineer for oversight, well, now they're going to pay the civil engineer to correct it and to oversee it. So there will be a financial burden. This is going to be financially burdensome to them, as well as having Cole involved will be financially burdensome to them in order to get this corrected appropriately. The water quality calculations have to be redone because now the water quality volume is being stored in these two end islands rather than off on this kidney-shaped water quality basin that we had agreed to as part of the final plan. And then in order to get some of the water quality volume that's needed in here, right, these were nice, pretty planted end islands. So they're going to leave the pole, obviously, and the tree, but the other smaller plantings will come out and this entire basin will be lined with stone. And then that yard drain, the rim of the yard drain will have to get extended and the rim of the yard drain elevated, not above the pavement though. It's got to still be below the pavement. So there's some grading that's going to have to take place in order to get some storage volume in there. So they're working on that. And I've also alerted them that I would be discussing all this with you this evening. So those shrubs, so the total quantity of shrubs are going to stay the same on the property. They're just going to get rearranged a little bit. And so that was items 4 and 5. All of the above is to be executed per a revised plan that Cole, the engineering firm, has to complete with our approval and then oversight by Cole in the field. And then we want an as-built survey. So we've got a record of what this final correction is, because right now we don't have a record of all of this. Site lighting to be modified to reduce the color temperature to 3000 K, which we already talked about, and that's been done and verified by Bruce. And I'm gonna swing through tonight on my way through because that's what we do. So again, these types of things do happen somewhat regularly. There's always a punch list on a construction project. This one, in many times it makes sense to say, no, you got to do it per plan. In this particular case, I think it'd be overly punitive, given the amount of work that's been done. And this will be punitive from a financial standpoint in order for them to get this corrected. So that's where we are. If the commission has questions or other thoughts or concerns with how we intend to handle this, then obviously please let me know. I do have the question is whether or not this can proceed under staff review, or we can have them come in to do a site plan modification. They will basically run through everything. I just ran through it with you. Cole will have to come in and do a presentation and discuss how everything was resized. That's it. I don't personally think it's necessary, but it's certainly at the commission's discretion if you feel you want to have them come in and have that conversation with you directly.
So they were using it and everything. They thought they were done aside from the electrical, correct?
Oh yeah, no, it's being used. It's all,
Right,
oh
it's
yes,
all
100%.
finished.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad they're gonna have to pay the piper somehow, because it seems like they just went a little rogue.
Mhm.
But I think if you feel comfortable that all of these things will be, as long as
And to be clear, if we don't get correction to this, if for whatever reason we get radio silence, then we will issue a notice of violation and we will fine them. So there will be, if at some point through this, there ceases to be cooperation in getting this corrected to these 8 items that we've outlined, and we don't get this, then they will be fined as a zoning violation.
One question about the lighting. Is it like night sky or whatever it is?
Yeah, it is dark sky compliant. It's standard shoebox lights, directly downcast. It's, yes,
Okay.
yes. Yep, they're, I think, 15-foot poles, which is pretty standard for what we would permit.
For a driveway. Okay.
Yes.
Does anybody feel we should bring them? I don't, but I want to make sure. There aren't others.
No.
Seems like it'd be another like punitive step.
Yeah, it is a little bit aggravating
Stuff that
though.
Yeah.
Actually, I was less, it was, when it was a regular old parking lot, we just were worried about where water was going. But then now that you said it's over an aquifer,
Mhm.
that's really,
Well, the only concern is if it's perforated or it's an open bottom
right.
drain. If
And
it's
does-
not,
And
then
have they
there's
heard
really
from
no
the
concern.
contractor have they asked the contractor?
I have not been, so I don't even have access to the contractor. I don't know, I haven't asked who the contractor is. So I've got a contact at Big Sky and I've been working with Cole, so.
And do all these changes do the same exact thing that we wanted originally?
We'll make sure. So as far as quantity of parking, that didn't change. And the water quality volume, they have to meet because that's an aquifer requirement as well. So yes. Okay. All right. Nope, that's fine. So we'll proceed under, without needing to come in for a full site plan modification. We'll proceed under staff review and Bruce and Garrett and I will continue to have some fun with this. Okay, next one up is 108 South Main Street, exterior building lights. And the owner is here to help answer questions, but I will run through, and then if there's additional questions, then we can go that way. So is everyone familiar with the building? First of all, 108 South Main Street, Unionville, the depot building where the crosswalk is, the flashing lights at and beacon at 177. I'm getting head nods. Okay, that's helpful. Okay. So photo one, this is the north elevation. So as you're heading southbound, this is what you're looking at on the building. There's an existing building sign. She would like to add gooseneck lights, a detail. This detail doesn't quite align with the spec sheet, but nonetheless, either 2 or 3 gooseneck lights to illuminate the sign is one item. And then this is also on the north elevation. There's a large overhang on the building. And there are floodlights that are recessed. There are old floodlights that are recessed up under the overhang. The intent is to change these out with what's more of a wall pack light than a floodlight. So I think it's going to be recessed up enough under the overhang and the eave that you're not going to really see this lens. We have discussed, and the owner understands that if it's causing a glare on 177, then a shield may be needed so that it's not going to cause a glare out to 170. This is another wall pack light. These are the sconces next to the doors. We'll come back to those, so I'll show you those. This is again wall pack light. And then this is the same, just a tighter view of that. Moving down, another wall pack light and sconces as you come right into the studio. This is now on the south elevation and into the main physical therapy portion. These are sconces next to the door. This is another space along the south elevation with wall sconces, and then a third door with a single wall sconce. And then on the east elevation, so facing out onto 177 on the gable end, there's already a double light up there. It'd be replacing this light with a double fixture light. And again, this one is, the light is recessed into the can. So I don't foresee this being an issue from a screen glare standpoint. We're just gonna have to get the angle of those lights right so that it's not creating a problem. And then the final light is, this had been a floodlight at the back, and replace that with the one of these wall pack lights at the back of the building. This is in the Farmington Center, Farmington Village zone. So any exterior change to the building is reviewed with our ADRC, the Architectural Design Review Committee. So I put this package together. Ms. Baden had given me the information. We just got it all in sequence and we got it out to the ADRC. They reviewed everything. The only thing they've got a concern with and would like to see a change with is the sconces. That the verticality of the sconce seems a little out of place, in their opinion, with the door and the very horizontal massing of the building. So Ms. Baden, that has been relayed. They understand. They're going to look at that. So this evening, what they're looking for is approval for the other lights. So the wall pack lights, the gooseneck lights for the sign, and then the apex light at the 177 frontage. And then we would come back and have a conversation about a different style or size of light that to be utilized next to the doorway entrances. For the most part, these are 1-for-1 replacements. The gooseneck lights for the signs are additional, but seems appropriate because I don't believe there's an Eve light here. So it'd be just identifying that sign on that north face of the building. Hit everything? Okay. So if the commission, if you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer questions. If there's a concern with something, let me know. Otherwise, this can go to building permit and proceed. Yes.
One quick question.
course.
How high are the gooseneck lights off the ground?
How high are the gooseneck lights?
Because just we light with those, they stick out and if somebody's gonna hit their head on it.
Okay. Oh, we'll make sure they're at least 6 or 7 feet up. That's a valid point, so that it doesn't, it's not a hazard. That's got to be at least 7 feet up, so they're not creating an issue. We'll take a look.
Yeah.
I don't,
Isn't that close to the bike trail too? Just
it
to
is.
jump on that point. Okay.
Yeah, it is. So it's right where the flashing lights are for the bike trail. So the bike trail actually, as you're standing in this, taking this photo in this car, you can see this car, the railing is immediately to the person's back and the bike trail is right behind. So it's literally right at the person's back as the bike trail.
Thank you.
So it'll provide additional, obviously additional lighting for the parking and the coming and going at the physical therapy center and the sports studio, the Pilates studio. So, okay, any questions, concerns?
Just time to replace lighting? Is it just trying to, is that the reason behind this project, just to?
Yeah, I think most of the lights are out. They're not functioning.
Yes, some of the lights aren't functioning, but more the issue is that the timer system is probably like something or 2000, and timer system is kind of reliable. So by upgrading these lights, we'll be able to put more accurate timer system and also one that people are over.
Okay, great.
Makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
Okay, all right, so we're gonna just proceed on our way then. For those that require building permit, the electrician will pull building permit. Okay, very good, thank you. Thank you. All right, I think I got, this is only 3, I think I've got 2 more. Hang in there, folks. All right, 1112 Farmington Avenue, the former Comer's Nursery and Hometown Foundation. This is the same request that we did last year for Bazzuto's. So they would like to sell Christmas trees. So they're looking to sell Christmas trees at this location for 4 weekends, Thanksgiving weekend, and then the first 3 weekends in Christmas, the first 3 weekends in December, December 4th through 7th, 11 through 14, 18 to 21. That's a Thursday to Sunday for each of those weeks. Thanksgiving weekend would be the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So Christmas tree sales here, the hours on Thursday and Friday are noon to 7, Saturday, Sunday, 10 to 6. The lighting will be just as it was last year, that the lighting will be turned off within an hour of the sales ending each evening, and a sandwich board type sign will be used for advertisement. In addition, there will be Christmas tree sales at the Holidays and Horses event at the Polo Club on December 7th. So if there's no issues, then I will give them the green light for this. Again, it's going to mimic what they did last year, and to my knowledge, there were not any issues. And normally, if there were, I would have been informed. So, okay, then the next one up is 4 Maiden Lane. 4 Maiden Lane is proposing expansion. And in 2016, the owner received a special permit for expanded home for a total area of 4,550 square feet. This special permit was approved. It was filed on the land records in 2018. So this is what this looked like in 2016. You can see in gray is the footprint of the original home here. And then in the black is the new home, which is much larger. Okay, so that's what had been approved. And that's what the home was going to look like. The 3-car garage and a notable expansion. So this was a rebuild of the front portion of the home and a notable expansion that ran east-west, which is what you're seeing here. Is this east-west is really 3 stories on the west side with the 3-car garage. So in 2018, what came through is a much smaller version. This is what was built. So what they actually built was this, a more petite version. And just a 2-car garage, not the 3, and the wings out to either side running in this east-west direction, much smaller and comparatively. So what was actually built was around 3,258 square feet, according to our assessor's records. We could run all the footprints. We didn't for this exercise. We could run the areas and all these. What they're looking, so as you look at this, let me see here what I've got. Here's the first floor plan. Here's your first and second floor plans. Right, so this was the existing home as you're looking at it in footprint. And then this back area was expansion. And so you've got a modest sunroom. I've got an expansion of 8 feet. And then this jog over here is about 1 foot 6 inches. The proposal is going to come out on the east side over here on the right-hand side. So this is Jack Kemper is working with them again. So this is what's going to be added on. So it's going to be a sunroom and then a master bedroom on this east side. So when you look at it in plan view, right? So this is the existing wall. Here's this expansion. So you've got sunroom on the first floor and basically a master bed expansion of a master bedroom on the second floor. So the total area is roughly 3,000. I'm going to round up 3,900 square feet. Again, this is less than the originally approved area, which had been 4,050 square feet. So it had gotten an expanded home permit. The expanded home permit was for the 4,550 square feet. It was recorded on the land records. In 2018, they built a portion, and now in 2025, they're looking to add on. It still falls under the expanded home threshold that had been originally approved. we are going to go ahead and process this building permit. There are some stormwater elements that we need to address with them on the, there's a stormwater line that comes through on the as-built. There is some runoff here. This all slopes down. So Main Street is off on the right, and you slope down to Garden Street, and then you keep sloping down to the river. So all this water runs from east to west or right to left. And there is a few yard drains on the east side of the property to capture water prior to reaching the home, and it circulates out around. So this line will have to be redone to be brought out around the expansion area. And then we are also going to require them to install some infiltrators or galleys of some sort to capture the first 1.3 inch runoff. So enough to try to get that infiltrated, which is the metric that we use now and implement for all the roofs. So that will get implemented here. That will happen as part of our building permit review. So again, this is more of an FYI that it's falling in under the existing expanded home threshold that had been approved in 2016. The permit's still valid because they did act on a portion of it, and then it doesn't time out. So it would not have expired per se. Okay.
Yeah, I have one too. Go ahead. We'll go.
I was just gonna say, isn't the front portion, isn't that a historic home? Isn't that an old home?
It is not in the historic.
It's not in the historic district. I guess I thought I haven't walked that one.
It is, so it's not in the, so historic home, yeah, it's, I think it's, the records I saw,
Oh,
it's
is it?
1880,
Yeah,
I think.
something.
But
Okay.
it is
But it is
not
not
in the
district.
historic district. Let me get on the right street. I know, close, I don't know all my streets over
Okay.
here as well as I
It's
should.
okay.
Maiden Lane, oh, I'm right,
You were on.
I'm on it, okay, so 4 Maiden is this guy here. So, but when I put the historic district layer. So his neighbors are in the historic district, but it's not. So, which happens, right? I mean, there's always that one off. So he is not in the historic district. Yeah,
I'm just curious.
yeah.
So Shannon, this one, so when we have expanded home applications, I feel like we're reviewing it based on both size, but also appearance. And in
Yes.
this case, that the appearance changed,
Yes.
but that doesn't reopen it to. Yeah, I'm
Well,
getting-
from a massing standpoint, so both, even if I were to put this side by side.
I mean, I guess the way I'm thinking about it is you have an original public hearing. If anybody, neighbors or whatever, want to give feedback on it, they're giving it on probably both size and layout and all those things.
Mhm.
Now that's changed, but there's no public voice anymore.
So this was the original.
Yeah.
And this, so on the right-hand side, let me get this dimension here. On the right-hand side, they were coming out 9.5 feet
Yeah.
with the 2-story portion, and then the sunroom was an additional 13 feet with a balcony on the, so this was a porch, so this was usable space over the sunroom. It wasn't enclosed, but it was usable space, envisioned as usable space off the master bedroom. So this version, so that was 9.6, this is 13.6, so it's an additional 4 feet. So we can check. I'd have to check with my assumption is because the regulation, the numeric part of the regulation is very specific, right? And it does talk about how it fits with the neighborhood. I don't know if there's enough latitude. I'd have to get a legal opinion from the town attorney to see if there's enough
Anybody else that wanna
latitude.
bring that?
Yeah.
There's enough latitude in the regulation to require them to come back to the commission.
Yeah.
Based solely on the aesthetics, if it is under the original approved area. I'm pulling the regulations up.
And I'm going on aesthetics, but there could be other issues I'm not thinking of that a neighbor might bring up or whatever.
Well, the other is drain, so. but
So
the
drainage,
commission's-
for example.
But
could be
the
different
commission's
areas or whatever.
purview with the expanded home isn't necessarily all encompassing. So a home containing, right, so we talk about the area of the home. The regulation, construction of new or expanded homes as well as accessory buildings within Farmington's existing neighborhoods may have a negative impact on the character of such residential areas. The use of the word character is widely debated. Our ability to use that word. Oversized homes may dwarf older, smaller houses, which may have been constructed decades ago, which speaks to size. Conventional looks like building setback regulations do not satisfactorily ensure compatibility between new and older construction. Left uncontrolled, the development of larger and out of scale houses and accessory buildings can have detrimental impact to an established area. Regulation seeks to control size, spacing, and height of principal and accessory structures in residential zones with existing zoning building lines so as to preserve some level of uniformity and architectural compatibility. And then the rest of this is that this all has to do with how this gets applied and what lots it can get applied to and exclusions for the R80 zone. This is the math. There's a 30% regulation in here. And then these are the areas you're used to seeing when I talk about 2,400 square feet of living area, 3,200 square feet of total area. Additions to homes or accessory buildings for which a special permit has already been approved under this section may be approved by the commission, or must be approved by the commission. The commission shall decide whether such addition is significant or not. Significant additions shall require a public hearing. So even if a home had an addition already, they had a public hearing, and now they want to do, so say they built the 4,500 square feet, and now they want to do a 200 square foot addition. What this is saying, the way this is written, it has to come to you for approval, but it doesn't necessarily require a public hearing. So they're now actually building less than what was originally approved. So I would think, again, that's, we can either say, yes, it's okay. I can get a interpretation from the town attorney.
That sounds right.
What's that?
I mean, that sounds right to me. They're, everything that you just read is talking about not building a huge house on a small lot, not building something that's out of place, but it was already approved and they're building a smaller addition than they were approved to build. And it's gonna match similar to the house. At least it looks to me like it is.
Correct. The aesthetics of this will be in
talked about
line. It's the
roof
same
line
architect. Jack
characters and-
Kemper was the original architect and Jack Kemper is the current architect. So that style and the barn style and cladding of that home will remain the same.
Yep.
So, but yes, the actual look on the east side of the home is different. Because again, this had a 9, this was 9.5 feet plus that 15-foot sunroom with the porch, and then the chimney is certainly different than this. if the commission, if the consensus, and this can go to vote, if you wanted, normally it's just a general, but it can go to vote as to whether or not you think it can go directly to building permit. And if that happens to come back as no, then my follow-up question would be, do you want an interpretation from the town attorney regarding
Whether or not another
Whether or
public
not-
hearing is necessary.
Yeah.
whether or not, because I'm not, I don't know that the commission has much latitude, but I'm happy to ask the town attorney.
It seems they're still within the spirit of what was approved, even if the shape has changed somewhat. So doesn't seem like this is a worthwhile place to get pedantic about the regulation. Like if they do proceed, I don't see that there's a harm or whatever, going on.
I assume this is not something that happens very often. Shane.
No.
Yeah.
No, we have had, we have had folks come in for an expanded home permit and then it's been priced out, right, particularly with COVID. We had some that got expanded home permits in 2019. And then, right, for a variety of
Stayed
reasons and
dormant,
have
yeah.
not been constructed.
Yeah.
I don't believe I've had one or a version, a much smaller redacted version, and they have not yet come back to do a phase 2. This is the first one I'm aware of that they've come back to do a phase 2 that is, I'll say, similar in aesthetics, but not identical to what had originally been approved. But
Yeah, I mean, it's not a hill I'm willing to die on. It's just a thought that I had relative to it's like different than anything I've seen in 6
Right.
years.
I will say in some cases, the sticking point can be the overall size, and if they're coming in smaller than originally approved,
Yep.
it might be seen as less. I don't know, I mean, I'm not sure what word I'm trying to use, but like if it would get, it would be less affecting the overall view of the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? If it was that much bigger.
Can I ask how the drainage changed? Does it have to do with the way did the roof line change at all? Did something happen to make that change or?
well, so they are going to have to, as part of a building permit, we're going to require them to. So this is the as-built survey. I apologize. It's the text box that comes up.
Yeah.
I don't have any control over this as I scroll through. So this is the as-built survey of the 2018 expansion. Okay, so this has the driveway, it comes down, the 2-car garage is here, and this is the current home as it exists today. So as part of that, there were drainage issues with this. So their roof drain comes out to 2 galleys. I believe there's 6x6x3 galleys. Bruce and I looked this up. He had to go back through his notes because he was out here for construction for quite a bit. And then this ties out into, this is actually Miss Porter's land behind. There's a closed drainage system on Miss Porter's that goes out. It heads northwest and then west out to Garden Street and then out through their property, through like the pool area, and then out into the Farmington River. Pretty much the entire, everything from Main Street flows through this neighborhood to Garden Street out to the river, just to be clear. So this isn't all that unique. That's this entire block. So these drains were put in, I'm assuming because the owner had realized that there's drain, right, again, all of this water. So the neighboring property here is the Porter's property, runs through. So he's just collecting this water here in a low point so that it doesn't get up to the house and bypassed it around the home out to another, just an outlet and some stone. All I'm saying is when they do this expansion here, this portion of the drain is going to have to be relocated. They can't build on top of that storm drain. It's got to come out around the expansion. When they do that, we will also have them tie their roof leaders for this new expanded portion into that and into galleys. So just like we had them do over here, these were galleys that were put in as part of this expansion in 2018 to help take that first volume of runoff from the roof and try to get that infiltrated back into the ground. So it's not just surface runoff that's impacting neighboring properties and downstream properties, trying to get some of that infiltrated back into the ground. Yes.
So I guess I don't like see a particular issue with this situation. I'm thinking, and that's why I said this probably doesn't happen that often, just bigger implications of people getting square footage approved, but then changing the plan. That's, I think, is my bigger,
Yeah,
concern, and not something we're gonna solve today. I'm not-
well, and that
I don't know.
happens. And quite honestly, if it, so, right, this, anytime, if it comes in less, it's getting approved all day long. So when it gets to building permit, if it's less and it's basically the same, but if it was radically different, it was the same overall area, but they went to all single floor,
Yeah.
right? Instead of 2 floor, and now the footprint itself is bigger.
Yeah.
Then yeah, that would be a different conversation. But if there's minor, if they're changing areas and they're going less and it's following the same general concept, it's, yeah, we're approving those all day long.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Just going to make the meeting longer.
no, that's fine. So we're good. All right. So it sounds like we're good. Everybody, we're okay. This is
Yes.
we're gonna continue and staff will handle the drainage as I noted. Okay. All right. That was it. I don't have anything else. So it'd be meeting minutes is the next thing up.
I got one quick one before we go there. Sorry to
Sure.
delay that. Dorset Pond. I don't know
Yes.
if you're familiar with it.
Oh,
but
yes,
everybody
I'm
else
very
is
familiar.
Trained and all that. And
Mhm.
it's not really what my question is about, but I was talking to somebody there and they said there were some houses that were approved and that the whole back half of that,
Mhm.
all the trees are coming down.
Mhm.
Is that true? Is there a development that's been approved to go in there? It was news to me.
It was a long time. It was pre-COVID. Why can't I get the door?
So it was a while ago.
It was a while. It was, as I said, we measure, there's certain benchmarks in life, right? Pre and post COVID. And so anyhow, it was pre-COVID. It was early in my career here and we actually had an intervener. I was wetlands agent. I was staff liaison to the Wetlands Commission at the time. It actually shows here. So this is Main Gate. Main Gate is access from Main Street. So we've got Meadow Road is here. Island Market is here. Here's Main Gate.
Right.
Main Gate currently provides access to 2 homes. I thought there's a third. I guess 2 homes for right now. And they did this one. This is the one that's under construction. It's been in a state of foundation for quite a while. This was all one large parcel here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 parcels here, 7, 12, 10, and 8. And this was subdivided, I want to say in 2017 or 18. Main Gate or Dorset Pond is here. Dorset Pond, the dam has had issues and the dam failed. It's not a catastrophic failure. It's not a catastrophic event for us. It's a private dam. The property owners own. So this is a picture from 2000.